Hello, I'm coming to you live from this Minneapolis and St. Louis caboose at the South Dakota State Railroad Museum to talk to you a bit today about what to expect at the upcoming NMRA Rocky Mountain Region Convention in May of 2026. I've got a whole slideshow presentation ready to go, and this is going to be kind of a dry run. We're going to be on NMRA X next week on Friday the 19th, so stay tuned for links to that. But anyway, I'm going to move on beyond the ambience of this caboose. I'm really feeling the warmth of all of our lanterns and basically the history of the caboose around me. But we better talk about what to expect at the convention, and then also day-to-day what's going to be happening. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, first things first, the convention is going to be running from May 13th through May 16th of 2026. The convention location is going to be at the Best Western Ramkota Hotel. That's located on North La Crosse Street in Rapid City. North La Crosse Street is going to be near the interstate, so think of exit 59 near I-90. Now I got a link on this first slide, and that's going to be to register for this convention. People who want to attend the convention have a few different options for what they would like to pay for, but the base fee is going to go at, I believe, you got to check my notes. There we go, we got $65 for early bird member registration. That is going to end on December 31st, so you have approximately 2 weeks to get that done. Then if you have regular member registration is going to be $75, and that's going to be after December 31st through March 31st. Late registration and non-NMRA members are going to be registered at $90. Spouses are $30, and children are $20 each. This registration fee is going to cover entrance to the convention hall itself and help pay for the convention. There are some additional fees that are optional, which you can add on, and that depends on what you'd like to do. But before we get into those extra fees, I'd like to go over how you get into Rapid City. So getting to Rapid City, most people are going to fly into Rapid City Regional Airport. A lot of other people are going to be driving. So I got a few different flights, and I got some different miles here put down. Not miles, but times for different cities. So Rapid City Regional Airport, we have direct connections to Minneapolis, Chicago, Denver, Dallas, Phoenix, Las Vegas, Charlotte, North Carolina, and Orlando, Florida. If you live somewhere else and you need to take a flight, it's probably going to be a connecting flight into one of those hubs. Drive times, if you plan on driving. Denver is our closest major city. That is 6 hours away. You're pretty much going straight north through Nebraska and Wyoming. And then we've also got 9-hour drive from Minneapolis. So for those of you that are in the Thousand Lakes region, if you're in that area, about a 9-hour drive. However, I know a lot of people in the Minnesota area come out to South Dakota anyway. So maybe think about making this into a trip. Who knows? Salt Lake City, that's going to be about a 10-hour drive. And I imagine if you live further away than that, you would probably prefer to fly anyways. Now you get to the Rapid City Regional Airport. It does have the basic services that you would expect. You got rental cars. You got airport shuttles to different hotels. There is a couple of taxi services within the city that you can call up. Plus, you got Uber and all those app-driven drivers. Now, once you get into Rapid City, the main hotel you would be staying at is going to be the Best Western Ramkota. That's located off of exit 59 in Rapid City, and it's just north of the I-90 interstate. There's a special rate going on until December 31st, and that's going to be good from the 12th through the 17th at the Ramkota. It's going to be $107 a night as the base fee. Now, there's still taxes and other fees to be added onto that, but $107 a night is a pretty good deal for our area at this time of the year. You can get cheaper, and there are definitely campground options as well if you prefer to come in with an RV. But if you're looking to stay at the convention, it's going to cost you $107 a night if you register before December 31st. Now, after December 31st through March 31st, it's going to cost $125 per night. That's a little bit more expensive, but it's still a pretty good deal. If you are registering after March 31st, it's going to be at whatever the market rate is for the hotel. So I'm not going to really quote exactly what it is, but it's going to vary depending on rooms. If you wanted to do something like get a king suite, register early. I got mine booked already because I live an hour and a half out of town, and I got that at $107 a night. So I'm set for a king suite. That's going to be our immediate production room and whatever else. Now, the Best Western Ramkota does have quite a few amenities to it. It is a very large hotel. I believe it is 260 some rooms. So we're talking about quite a bit of space. But we've got 4 convention halls rented out, 2 of which are going to be clinic halls, and then we're going to have a model room, as well as a main room that's going to have a few vendors and whatever other layouts, dioramas, etc. that we can fit in there. That main room is going to be kind of our main meeting spot. The hotel also boasts a pool and a small water park. And then my personal favorite is that Minerva's restaurant is located inside and adjacent to the hotel. That includes not just the restaurant, but also a bar and grill. That's going to be open late, but it's going to be very convenient for everybody. Nearby in Rapid City is the Uptown Mall. And that's maybe about, I want to say, 3 minutes away. It's basically right out of the parking lot. But Uptown Mall, if you wanted to go shopping, that's very easy to do. Downtown is about 5 to 10 minutes away, depending on traffic. Nearby restaurants, if you get tired of eating at Minerva's, would be Olive Garden, Texas Roadhouse, Red Lobster, and the Millstone. Those are all located within about a half a mile of the hotel. In addition to that, the Black Hills Railway Society is located about 5 minutes from downtown. Now, this hotel is pet friendly. I just checked this. They do have a policy on dogs. You can go check that, or you can call them up for the details. And then this hotel does run an airport shuttle. So if you're looking to arrive at the convention by airplane and you don't want to rent a car, this is going to be an option for you. You can at least get to the hotel, and I believe we're going to be providing drivers and/or we're going to start carpooling, depending on who's available. That's something we're going to have to work out depending on who needs a ride. Now, when you get to Rapid City and you get checked into the hotel, one of the first things you're going to want to do is find this map that you see on the screen. This is a tourist map put out by Black Hills and Badlands, and it isn't very detailed for things like campgrounds or all the different attractions around. But what it is good for is navigating the main roads in the Black Hills. So Rapid City is located on the right-hand center of the Black Hills. I got a big arrow there pointing out the convention center. Hill City is pretty much straight west of there, about a third of the way across the map. Custer is located further to the south alongside Custer State Park. And then there's also Wind Cave National Park a little bit further south. This area is known as the Central Black Hills. That's where you see Mount Rushmore, Crazy Horse Memorial, the Needles Highway, Iron Mountain Road, the Black Elk Wilderness. All those areas are located in the Central Black Hills. Then there's a little bit of a space going north, and you get into Deadwood and Lead. And yes, the town is pronounced Lead, not Lead. It was named Lead because of the gold lead found in the area. At least that's what I've been told. There's a few different theories on that. But anyway, Deadwood and Lead, that's going to be kind of the epicenter of our activities for the northern Black Hills. Now, given our basic schedule, May 13th, if you're arriving a little bit early, that's going to be an explore on your own day. You can pick up your registration packets, you can check into the hotel, but we're encouraging people to go and explore Rapid City and explore the area. In fact, if you want to arrive a couple days early, we encourage you to do that. Black Hills area is full of all these tourist attractions, and it's full of the Black Hills National Forest, national parks, national monuments, etc., which I'll go and cover a lot of those briefly. But if you have time, please show up early. Or alternatively, if you wanted to stay a few days late, you can do that too. So that's going to be Explore Your Own on the 13th. May 14th is going to be exploring the Central Black Hills. That's going to be Hill City and Keystone. Then on May 15th, we're going to be going to the Northern Black Hills, where we will be at Deadwood and Lead. And finally, on the 16th, that is going to be when everybody is at the convention. It's kind of the big grand finale event. You got the contest results. There's going to be a couple of meetings, and we're going to have a lot of clinics. Now, next, I'd like to go day by day through what you can expect to be doing at the convention. So first things first, on May 13th, there's no official events for the convention occurring. However, this is again when you can pick up your registration packets. This is when you can check into your hotel. And this is where you can really get a feel for the Rapid City and the Black Hills area. Now, some of the first things people might want to do is explore our monuments. We got Mount Rushmore and Devil's Tower and Jewel Cave. These are all national monuments ran by the National Park Service. Also, a little bit lesser known is the Crazy Horse Memorial. The Crazy Horse Memorial is a private nonprofit organization, but they are carving a sculpture of Chief Crazy Horse that is on a scale much larger than Mount Rushmore. I think it's something like 4 times larger. It's gigantic. There is a little bit of a political history behind it, and it's a little bit controversial with some groups of people. However, the sculpture itself is amazing to look at for one particular reason, and that is the sculpture. It's currently being produced. Right now they're working on Crazy Horse's hand and his arm. That whole thing is going to be continued to be worked on, I don't know for how long, many years in the future. It's already been in production for about 6 decades, I want to say. So expect, I imagine, at least another 6 decades. At the moment, they got a crane on top of it. It's pretty cool to look at, and they got a massive visitor complex that explains the history of the memorial, and then all the other things related to Crazy Horse and the Lakota people. So it is pretty cool and very educational. Mount Rushmore, people are very familiar with that. It's our most famous monument in the area. Not too hard to get to. It's right outside of Keystone. Main thing is going to be you would have to pay for parking and the entrance fee. But once you're in there, pretty easy to walk around. They make it easy to navigate. There's a couple of museums. There's a Hall of Patriotism, something like that. They continually have stuff changing in there, so it's kind of hard to keep track of what's what. Devil's Tower is located in northeast Wyoming, and that's going to be on the west side of the Black Hills. It's about 2 hours away from Rapid City. In mid-May, it is pretty easy to get in and out. It gets a lot more difficult in the middle of the summer, but this time of year, it's going to be okay. And then Jewel Cave is located west of Custer, near the Wyoming border. It's a national monument that contains a cave with a very large complex of caverns that all have these different crystal networks built in. There are caves that are a lot closer, but I do encourage people to either go to Jewel Cave or to go to Wind Cave, which is going to be a national park that I'm going to get into. So the national parks, we got 2 national parks in the area, and then we have a state park nearby as well. The 2 national parks are Wind Cave and then Badlands. Wind Cave is the lesser known of the 2 parks, but it contains a lot of wildlife, and it also contains a cave that you can very easily walk through that has, 98% of all the world's boxwork. If you don't know what that is, it's basically calcite formations on the roof of the cave. Very cool to look at. I think Jewel Cave is a little bit better, but Wind Cave is a lot closer and a little bit more convenient. Badlands National Park, though, I think that is the crown jewel of western South Dakota. It's got a vast landscape that is unlike anything you can see anywhere else. It looks kind of like a desert in some places. It looks like a grassland in other places. But the common feature is all this limestone and shale has been eroded down over millions of years, and you have entire mountains made of these different rock formations. And they all have these banded colors where at dawn, dusk, and during rainstorms, the color really shines. If you're into photography or painting, this is a dream come true for a landscape. And then also, if you like hunting for fossils, you can walk around. Now, you can't keep the fossils. It is a national park, but you can look for them. And there are specific hiking trails out there for rock hunting and fossil hunting. Just remember, you can't take anything from the national park, but you can find stuff. You just, if you find something interesting, tell a ranger about it instead of pocketing it. Custer State Park, that is managed by South Dakota Game Fish and Parks, but it is definitely the best in our park system. Think of it kind of like a miniature Yellowstone park. We don't have the geothermal stuff, but what we do have is lakes for fishing, we got creeks, we got a ton of wildlife, including mountain goats and bighorn sheep. There's also elk and mule deer and whitetail deer, etc. They're all over the place in that park. There's a lot to see. There's historic structures, some of which were used by Calvin Coolidge during his presidential administration. Not a lot of people know that, but he came out here to the Black Hills for an extended vacation in the middle of his term. I think that was after his son died. But I would let the museum handle the details on that. Anyway, Custer State Park, it's a great place to drive through. There's a lot of sights to see, including the Needles Highway, etc. Now, if you're going to get some information about tourism in the area, the two websites that I recommend going to is visitrapidcity.com and blackhillsandbadlands.com. Visit Rapid City handles the local Rapid City area, and it's got a listing of all the different restaurants, hotels, campgrounds. It's going to have a listing of different events that are occurring at that time. I'm hoping that we're going to put that event in the Visit Rapid City so we can get some people coming through the convention. And then we've also got Black Hills and Badlands. They have the same concept as Visit Rapid City, except they are applying it to the whole region. So everything that is in the Black Hills area and east of here in the Badlands is covered. So all kinds of events. Things like weather conditions are even listed on that website. Places to stay, things to do, places to eat, etc. So go ahead and check out those two websites. It's going to do you a lot of good to plan out this trip. Anyway, that's going to conclude May 13th. You're pretty much open to do whatever you like. If you want to even come in early and ride the train and pay for it yourself, go for it. No problem there. Or you can photograph trains in the area. That works too. May 14th, this is when the convention really kicks off. So the things that will be happening on the 14th include riding the Black Hills Central Railroad. That's also known as the 1880 train. Then we're also going to be touring the South Dakota State Railroad Museum, which is right next door to the train. And you get to see the towns of Keystone and Hill City. So focusing on the 1880 train for the moment, this is a tourist line that runs between Hill City and Keystone over a former branch line of the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy Railroad. The main locomotives are number 110 and 108. These are Baldwin 2662 tank Malays. I believe it was, I got to make sure I get this correct, 110 was built in 1928, and it was for a Weyerhaeuser Lumber Company. And it was in operation at the 1880 train since 2001. Well, that engine was successful enough that the 1880 train looked to purchase a second Baldwin, and they found one, and that's number 108. That was built in 1926 for Potlatch Lumber Company, and it has been in operation at the 1880 train since 2020. You can see both of those engines right there on the screen. That's one of my night photography sessions from a special event a couple years ago. Now, once you're done with the train, well, I should say once you're done at the museum, which I'll get into for details, you're going to board the train and you're going to take the 11 o'clock, I believe it's the 11 o'clock train over to Keystone. So that's 10 miles out, and it's through the beautiful Black Hills. It's very scenic, although I will say, as of the last couple of years, some of the houses have been filling in the area, but there's still a lot of scenery there. It's a nice, slow, relaxing journey. You're being pulled by a historic engine. And then we've got passenger cars at this train, some of which are Oregon Electric cars that have been converted into passenger service. And then there are also some oddities like a Chicago Northwestern drover's car, which was used by cowboys riding on the cattle trains to go back and forth from here to Omaha. Anyway, 10 miles out, it takes approximately an hour to get to Keystone. You're going to get off at Keystone. You're going to be able to eat lunch at Keystone. An hour in May should be able to handle getting to a restaurant, no problem. I'm not sure yet if we're going to do any kind of catering, but we'll find out as we get popularity. If that's something where we have a big demand, I'm sure we can work something out. Now, it's important to get back on the train at the proper time. You're going to want to be on the train by 1 p.m. for sure. That's its departure. So that means you don't want to be late. This train does not stop for anybody. You want to be there about 10 minutes early, ideally, so that you can get back on board. But we're going to ride the train back from Keystone to Hill City. Again, 10 miles, takes about an hour. And once you get off, there's going to be an optional activity that's for doing a yard tour and a shop tour of the 1880 train. Those two things are a little bit extra. I believe the way it works is that the train ticket is a separate $60 fee that includes the yard tour, if I remember right. And then there's going to be the museum as well as one or two other things. I can't remember exactly how it was broken down, but there's a option 1A and an option an option 1A and an option 1B that's going to be on the website. So you might want to think about exploring that. Once the shop tour is done, then we're going to be, you can explore the museum, and then you can also explore the town of Hill City. There's a lot of shops in the area, art galleries, restaurants. The idea is that people will get off the train, do the yard tour, and then they have some time to go eat dinner. Now, the main activity that I recommend people do in addition to the train, and this is something you can do separately from the train as well, is to visit the South Dakota State Railroad Museum. This museum has been in its current facility since 2010. The late director of the museum, his name was Rick Mills, was a prolific author of South Dakota Railroad history, but he has also organized a lot of the collection in the museum. And what we're doing now is we're kind of managing the collection, and we're in a transition period. Inside the museum, we got some of the main exhibits, including Caboose 1208, which is what I'm in right now. Then there's also the Dakota Junction layout. That is an HO scale model railroad that is somewhat reminiscent of South Dakota. That one's kind of a work in progress, but we're hoping to have most of it completed by the time the convention starts. We're going to also have exhibits on railway lanterns, women in railroad history. We've got some live steam engines that are going to be on display. I'm not sure if they'll be running or not. I'm hoping we could hook up compressed air, but that depends on how difficult it would be to accomplish. Then, of course, we got the history of the 1880 train and a false front depot that kind of shows what a small town station looked like in South Dakota. For a whole overview of the museum, you can check our website. We got different exhibits up. I'm continually updating it to make sure that we have current information. So that's something to check out. Now, once you're done with the train and once you're done with the museum, everybody is expected to reconvene at the Hill City Center. That is just across the street from the train. It's only about a 100-yard walk. Not a big deal. At the Hill City Center, we're going to have a few different clinics, including my own, which is going to cover 3D printing. We don't quite have the schedule set, but I'm pretty sure that's when it's going to happen. But when we're there, this is going to be like we got snacks available. You can kind of converse with each other. We might have an introduction to the convention there. As soon as clinics are done, everybody is expected to go back to the hotel. So if you haven't checked in by that point, that would be the time to check in. If you've got models to register for the convention, that is when you're going to go register the models. If you need to set up a train layout, that should be available throughout the day, but in the evening, I think we should be able to get a couple of sessions for setting things up shoehorned in. And anyway, that's going to pretty much conclude May 14th. First day of the convention, you got the train, you got the museum, everybody gets together, everybody has a good time, etc. Now, May 15th, this is when we do something a little bit different, I think, for most conventions. Most conventions, there are things like open house tours of different layouts. Well, we don't have a ton of modelers with a large layout to showcase, so that option was out the window for us. But what we do have is a lot of living history around us, and one of the best towns to explore Black Hills history is the town of Deadwood. Now, Deadwood was founded in 1876, 2 years after the discovery of gold in the Black Hills by the 1874 Custer expedition. Eventually, a gold lead was found just outside of Deadwood, near the town of what would become Lead, and this became the Homestake Gold Mine. Now, the Homestake Gold Mine is going to be, we got a big tour going on for that. And then we've also got the Northern Hills Railway Society. It's a small club, and they have a layout running in the basement of one of the commercial structures in town. Both will be open and available. So, let's see, I gotta get past, sorry, I'm a little lost in my own notes. There we go, here's May 15th. So, one of the first things we're going to do is going to be the mine tour at 10 a.m. That's going to be a 2-hour tour. It's going to be going down into the Homestake Mine, which is currently run by Sanford Labs. They use it as a research facility. But there's a lot of old equipment still around. There's a history of the mine, as well as a tour of all the different activities they are doing down there. This is limited to 80 spots in total, so you are going to want to register early to get on one of those 80 spots. If you're claustrophobic, I understand maybe you don't want to go into a mine. There is also the, what is it again? The Homestake Mining? No, it was the Black Hills Mining Museum. That's basically right across the street. You can walk into that and get a very similar education as well. I don't believe that is an option on our convention, but admission is only, I think it's like $14 or something. Really not that bad. Now, some facts about the Homestake Gold Mine is that over 40 million troy ounces of gold was extracted from the mine in its operational life, which, if you don't know, that's a lot of gold. Like, it's worth a lot of money. This mine also had the world's largest network of underground mining trains. These trains were 18-inch gauge and 22-inch gauge. Most of them ran on battery and compressed air engines. Many of those engines are still around. Some have found their way to Colorado. Others have found their way out to Montana. I think there's a couple of further east into the Midwest. But there's going to be several examples of these compressed air engines and battery locomotives right there at the Homestake Mine. So if you're looking at some railroad history, that's going to be great. There's a couple of museums in downtown, which I'll get into here in a moment, that also covers Black Hills history. But once we're done with the mine tour, the next stop is going to be at the Northern Hills Railway Society. So the Northern Hills Railway Society is kind of a sister organization to the Black Hills Railway Society. Seeing as the Black Hills Railway Society is in Rapid City, it's quite a bit larger, but the Northern Hills Railway Society has a very nice layout. So that club is going to be putting on an operating session, and they're going to be giving tours of the layout. It's a fantastic model railroad, so I hope people take the time to go see it. Now, in addition to the Northern Hills Railway Society, there are also some museums in the area. So there's the Adams Museum downtown, and then there's it's a big visitor center / museum that is an old depot in the center of town. Then we've also got downtown shops, and Deadwood is known for its casinos and saloons. So you want to go gamble for a couple of hours? Go for it. You want to go get a decent dinner somewhere? Go for it. One thing to note about getting to Deadwood, I recommend taking I-90 to get there. You could, in theory, take 385, but that highway is currently under heavy construction, and there are large sections of it that are being closed off periodically. I don't know exactly if it's going to be closed during the convention. That's still 5 months out, so we don't have a schedule that far in advance. But I would recommend just avoiding 385 completely to go between Hill City and Deadwood. If you want to, start out from the hotel, get on I-90, and just take that up to the exit to get to Deadwood and Lead. One other thing to note about Deadwood is that parking can be an issue at peak hours. However, since this is mid-May, the tourist season has not been fully blooming yet. I don't know what you would really use for that. It's not in full swing yet, is what I'm getting at. So parking shouldn't be too big of an issue, but you want to keep an eye out for parking garages and a couple of side lots. It's a town that is very narrow, and it's in the bottom of a valley. So it's kind of hard to find space down there. Now, after Deadwood, there's a special tour of the Riddles Gold Factory, which owns the Black Hills Gold brand. Unfortunately, I can't show you photos because there's strict security. And Mike Thorson is going to be the one giving a presentation on that. But there's going to be a 1-hour tour of Black Hills Gold. That's going to be that evening in Rapid City. So if you want to get on that tour, make sure you leave enough time to get from Deadwood back to Rapid City. Once we're done there, there's going to be a few more clinics happening at the Convention Center at the Ramkota. And then, of course, everybody gets to eat dinner and talk amongst themselves, go do activities, etc. Now, May 16th, this is kind of the big grand finale for the convention. And we're going to start off by explaining the Black Hills Railway Society. We're going to be doing an open house at that train club from 9 a.m. to noon. The layout is one of the largest in the area. It is HO scale. And that layout is going to be set up for some operations. I think we're going to be doing an ops session of some kind. I don't exactly know when or how that's going to happen, but we will be doing that. The Black Hills Railway Society, we've been working on the layout for quite a long time. This has taken multiple generations of people to build. Then we've also got a smaller N-scale layout in the back that is currently under construction. I'm kind of in charge of that project. We're hoping to have that done by the convention. That one is set up for operations for sure, so we should be able to run 2 operating sessions in tandem with each other if we get enough interest. Now, for the location of the Black Hills Railway Society, it is at 426 St. Joseph Street, just outside of downtown Rapid City. It's very easy to get to from the hotel. But it's the, It's the South Dakota Stock Growers Association building. All you really got to do is look for a narrow, long building made of brick with a large cowboy and a neon sign on top. That's the easiest way to find it. That or put the address into Google. Now, after that open house, and also while it's still going on, the models are going to be available to view in the model room. And then we're also going to have the results of the contest. So there's going to be judging going on. And then we've got clinics running throughout the day on Saturday. So this is kind of the main day where everybody's at the convention center. We're in Rapid City. Everybody's supposed to be having fun. You can go out and do some side activities if you like. Again, we don't have really a lot of open house options around here. So this is kind of a thing where you're going to come into the convention. You're going to see stuff at our central hub. Go out and do some of the activities we have available. But then you can also mix in other things if you want to. So if you want to go to the reptile gardens, or if you want to go to Bear Country, USA, if you want to head out and explore the Badlands in detail, go for it. Now, there are a few other things to do in the area. If you are an avid hiker, or if you like to go bicycling, it's biking, sorry. It's been a long day. But anyway, the main trail to look for is the George S. Mickelson Trail. This is the former Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy branch line that ran from Edgemont at the south end of the Black Hills all the way to Deadwood at the north end of the Black Hills. It's 116 miles long. It goes through 4 hard rock tunnels. I think it's got over 80 different bridges, and it is loaded with Black Hills history. If you wanted to hike segments of it, there are trailheads located every couple of miles. If you want to go biking, you can do that. I've been able to tackle 20-mile stretches without too much issue. Because it's a former rail bed, the average grade's only about 1%. It's pretty easy to handle. If you got time, you could explore the Black Hills National Forest. The George S. Mickelson Trail runs right through the middle of it, but Black Hills National Forest has 1.2 million acres, and it's got all kinds of campsites, all kinds of fishing ponds, hiking trails. There's even one trail that runs right through the spine of the Black Hills, kind of in parallel to the Mickelson Trail. The National Forest, it's I believe the first in the country. So back when lumber was being harvested for the Homestake mine, there was some concern that the mine and the surrounding sawmills would eat up all the trees in the area. And it's kind of ironic because we almost have the opposite problem now with too many trees. But back then, the hills were being stripped bare. So the National Forest Service was introduced. I'm not exactly sure of the year, but the Black Hills National Forest was the first in the system. And we have the first timber sale as well. That's in the Nemo area. That was a big sawmill town, and it was one end of a branch line for the Black Hills and Fort Pierre narrow gauge railway. So that's just a little taste of some of the history you can experience in the Black Hills area. Now, if you head out to the Badlands, one area to stop, and don't worry, you're going to have plenty of signs reminding you of this, would be Wall Drug. It's kind of a touristy, I don't want to call it a theme park because there's no real rides, but it's kind of like a walking mall with a big theme to it. But it's cool. They got small museums, they got a drugstore, they got shops all over. They got a courtyard with all kinds of activities for kids. They got people who play Western characters. It's fun for a couple of hours is what I'm getting at. So if you go through the Badlands and you need a couple-hour break from that, head into Wall Drug, get yourself lunch. It's only about an hour away from the hotel. If you're not used to these really long drive times, it might sound a little bit odd, but 1 hour in South Dakota is not very bad of a drive. I got to go about an hour and a half just to get to the museum myself. One of the main activities people might want to engage in is rail fanning. Now we've got 2 local railroads. One runs on the west side of the Black Hills and the other runs on the east side of the Black Hills. The railroad running on the west side of the Black Hills is the Burlington Northern Santa Fe, and this is covering the Butte and the Black Hills subdivisions. If you don't know what those are, some of the main areas for this line include Alliance in Nebraska, and then also Crawford Hill, and that is located near the Nebraska-South Dakota border. It's only about 20 miles from my own house. This main line is very active. If you want to get pictures of things like Boeing aircraft trains, if you want to get pictures of long coal trains, grain trains, oil trains, it's all there. All you got to do is just pick a day and sit trackside. Right in May, it's going to be a little wet in some areas, but if you stick to some of the main roads, you'll be just fine. You know, the main thing is don't drive off onto some 2-track and get stuck in the mud. The other local railway is a Class 2. It is the former Dakota, Minnesota, and Eastern, which was bought out by Canadian Pacific, and then CP Rail sold that to Genesee and Wyoming. It is now called the Rapid City Pier and Eastern. This runs from Colony, Wyoming and Belle Fourche at the north end of the Black Hills all the way past my house to Crawford Junction in Nebraska. There is also its main line running east of Rapid City, and it goes all the way to Pierre, which is our state capital, right on the Missouri River. If you want to do rail fanning of a Class 2 railroad, this is it. It features SD40, SD40-2s, SD40-3s. There's a couple of leased units. There are some Dash 9s that might be ready by the time the convention is around. I don't know. That depends on whether or not the railroad can get them painted and upgraded by then. It's really slow running for most of the trackage, so it's not that hard to chase. You don't really need a radio or anything. You just kind of follow the tracks. But rail fanning that railroad, it's unique in that it is a Class 2. It's in that middle ground between a Class 1 railroad and a Class 3 railroad. So it's kind of unique. I don't know how many Class 2s are still around, but it's a pretty short list. If you want to explore something other than railroads, the Black Hills and Badlands are known for fossils. So we've got natural history museums that are in the area, and really there's more than I want to get into detail, but a couple of the big ones include the Mammoth Site in Hot Springs on the south end of the Black Hills. That's a really large complex. You can easily spend a couple of hours in there. And then there's also the Black Hills Institute located in Hill City. That's easily worth about an hour of your time. The Black Hills Institute is most famous for digging up the T-Rex that is now in the Field Museum of Chicago called Sue. Sue has its own legal backstory. You can research it online. But the guy that is in charge of the Black Hills Institute, he was very big in that whole scandal. I'll let him explain. If he's around, you can ask him. But I'm not going to put any words in his mouth about that. Anyway, he's got a whole story related to that. It's a very fun museum. Admission's pretty low price too. I think kids love it. And then east of Rapid City, we've got the South Dakota Air and Space Museum, as well as the Minuteman Missile Site near Wall. Both of those sites are showcasing South Dakota's influence on aviation. So the Air and Space Museum is located next to Ellsworth Air Force Base, which is where it's one of, I believe, 3 locations that host B-1B bombers. The museum hosts a lot of aircraft, including a B-29, and there's also a B-25 that was Eisenhower's personal aircraft during World War II. So there's a lot of unique things there. And then the Minuteman Missile Site, that is, I gotta remember, that early, it might be something where you have to call ahead. But in any case, it's east of Wall, and it is a museum that shows it shows basically history of the Cold War and the nuclear arsenal. Now that's just a taste of some of the things you can do in the area during the convention. Again, you're going to want to register as early as possible. December 31st is the cutoff for the early bird registration, which I often call priority registration. You're going to get discounts on a lot of this stuff. And then if you register after that, it's going to be at the regular admission price. So please don't wait. We're going to want to see you here this May. I don't know how many people are registered currently, but the Blaine Holbrook, he's hoping for 150 people. I'm hoping to see even more. So thank you very much for taking the time to listen to my rambling, and I hope that this information is going to be helpful to you over the next couple of weeks. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. See you in 2026.